Graduating class of 2024, the parents, the family members, I humbly thank you for this opportunity to be the guest speaker at this year's graduation. I am also very appreciative of how much you all paid for your tickets to be here. And if you haven't paid yet, don't worry. It's automatically deducted through Venmo at the conclusion of the ceremony. Okay, I gotta get this out of my chest. Do you guys still walk the halls every morning in the square? Just aimlessly in a square like a bunch of herd of cattle? Yeah, like a herd of cattle. No, you don't do that? Okay, well, I always found that to be bizarre. My wife and I always laughed about that when we were in high school. And somehow we still ended up walking that square every single morning. And now, unfortunately, for you guys, they picked a long-winded speech therapist to present here today, so I hope you all brought your bleacher seats and your seat cushions. Anyway, I am here today to try to instill some knowledge, some hope, and some insight about what you can expect and should expect from the future. And to the guy who said it was wrong date, you might want to listen carefully. Who was that? Was this guy right here? So I thought very much about why a group of adults would reach out to someone like me to speak to the wonderful young minds of our time at such an important event where families come together to look in admiration at the achievements and the lives you have made at this point. And standing in front of you today, I also wonder how many of you actually did some research about the guy sitting in front of you today. In fact, I couldn't even tell you who spoke at my graduation. But hopefully, you will pick up at least a snippet of my speech to help you along the way. Actually, over the years, that's all I've really picked up in life is snippets from people. And those little snippets have come from all kinds of people: family, friends, teachers, complete strangers, rock stars, actors, farmers, electricians, etc., etc. So today, if I could say one simple line that would affect each one of you profoundly, I will have done my job. And please understand that for each of you, it will most likely never be the same one. And if I do not give you that one line, then it is a simple fact that I have failed you. And if I fail you, I do apologize. And the only way for me to right that wrong will be for me to learn from this experience, move on, get more life experience, and try better next time. Also, please understand, if the latter is the case, it will only be me who benefits from moving on, not you. You will be forever let down and will have to wander aimlessly through life until you get that humdinger advice that truly opens your eyes. But as you will hopefully learn today, specifically about me, is that I am nothing more than a 40-year-old man at this point that has had the appropriate amount of gains and losses in every aspect of my life. And what I want to talk to you today is about life. And you, just like me, will have gains and losses, successes and failures. But it's how you use the knowledge and the resources that you have gained and that you will gain that will determine how you will move on in life. Because remember, success can turn into failure just as easy as failure can turn into a success. So before I start telling you about how amazing I am and what you should learn from me, and how much the board approved for payment for this miraculous speech. What, you guys all go to church this morning? Nobody's laughing. I want to tell you first of a few personal things that I'm going to try to tell you through this speech. In fact, it wasn't until a couple years ago that I actually had words for it. However, as mentioned, my son has become quite an accomplished drummer, and I've been fortunate to share the stage with him many times now. But before our first show together in front of 400 people, I looked at my son, and he's nervous, right? And I said, no matter what, keep the beat, and no matter what, never stop playing. You see, I truly believe you live your whole life practicing for a few moments that will determine the rest of your life. And if you're wise enough, you will keep the beat, and you will never stop playing. For it's when you stop playing that everyone will know your mistakes. So as many of you know, it's been 22 years since I graduated from this very gym. I was born and raised in Port Sanilac. I attended CBS schools. This is where I made my humble beginnings, and it's where I received my education. This is where I met my wife of now 17 years, and while I only live a mere 11 miles away in Lexington, it is the community that I chose to raise my kids in, and the community that my wife and I work in and support through the health professions. By the time I was sitting in your seats in this very same gymnasium ready for graduation, I had already accumulated a massive resume. I had owned a lawn business consisting of 45 lawns for 7 years. I had toured with a Celtic rock band for 4 years and released 2 CDs. I had already been dating my now wife for 2 years. And I had already decided, like any smart kid, that after graduation I was going to tour with my band. By this point, I had already learned some of the most important lessons that would eventually I would pass on to my own kids. Now, much like you, I had this vision that life began at graduation. I had to pick what I wanted to be right there, and I had to make all of my life's decisions. What I didn't know was that graduation was the beginning of a much bigger journey, and that I would find myself sitting in these exact same seats for the rest of my life. Constant wonder, constant decision making, constant gains and losses, constant education, and not just book smart education, but world education. See, I've always believed from the time that I was your age that you can be broke, live in a laundromat, work really hard for 10 years, and become a doctor. Or you can be broke, live in a laundromat, work really hard for 10 years, and become a rock star. So the choice is yours. Now much of my success has been what I would attribute to fate, or it has been what I would attribute to fate. I'm not much one to believe that there's a special purpose out there and a set plan. I very much believe in free will and that we are each responsible for our successes and accountable for our failures. It was maybe a month before high school ended that my now wife said to me, "What are you going to do after graduation?" And like any intelligent young man, I said I was going to tour my band. And she simply replied to me, "I think you should go to college." I said, "Where are you going to college?" And she said, "Central." And I said, "Okay." And I applied to Central. That's it. It was that simple. Now, I had the grades to get into college, but I was no means a superstar student. I've always learned better just by knowing people. I get along with people. And I find people to be curious as to why each one thinks the way they think. So I like to pick things up as I go. But this experience would be the first of many times that I would have a chance occurrence and would just fall into a circumstance that worked out for the better. So I went to college for 4 years and I received a bachelor's degree in the arts, a major in cinematography and photography, and a minor in business, which I like to call my fake degree. I was determined to be a movie director and make music for a living. Immediately post-graduation, I continued to work on my horror movie. I was 3 weeks out and was planning on looking to get my movie backed, to get some funds to come in so I could make this movie. And this is a day I will never forget. And it was probably one of the most significant days of my life, other than, of course, your personal things like getting married and having kids and talking to you fine kids. But this is where I would tell you my second big piece of advice. Sometimes you have to open new doors. And sometimes you just fall through those doors. But if you're not willing to take the risk, then you will never know the reward. Anyway, while I was working on my horror movie, and my wife was at college, but she couldn't get her degree in 4 years. I wanted to do, it clicked. I was sitting there making this movie, right, and it clicked. And I said, I want more in my life. I want to get married. I want to have kids. And I don't just want to be like, Daddy's off to make this movie, and I'm just going to pay the bills this week. You know, still trying to make it big. And so, without any hesitation, I went from storyboarding a movie to the Central Michigan website, which, yes, we still had dial-up back then. And I quickly found the speech language pathologist degree. Now, I kid you not, I was just randomly searching through degrees saying, what could I be, okay? I didn't even know what a speech language pathologist was. But I was like, they work with kids. And I think I could do that. My creativity would help. I didn't know it would work with everybody, or I wouldn't want to do it. So anyway, that same day, I picked up the phone and I talked to a nice lady at the administrative assistant's or the head of the admissions office. And I said, hey, I want to get some information on speech therapy. And she said, absolutely, come on in and pick up the forms. So I went to the office and I met this nice woman, and she handed me the forms. And I, of course, thanked her, and she looked at me and said, you know, the director of the program is sitting upstairs if you want to go talk to him. Sure. Yeah. So she sent me upstairs. And as I got to the second floor, I was greeted by this super nice old guy from New Zealand. And he greeted me, and he looked at me, and we had this awesome conversation and laughed, and we got along great. But he looked at me all of a sudden and he said, why speech therapy, man? And I said, look, honestly, it just seems like a good fit. And I think it would be something good for me. And I think I could help a lot of people. And plus, you know, I put in a lot of thought to this. I was storyboarding a movie this morning and thought about speech therapy this afternoon. Why not? A very shocked man looked at me and he said, do you know how hard it is to get into graduate school for speech therapy? And a very naive me said, no. To which he replied, the people that are in this program are getting 4.0s and are literally on wait lists throughout the country. Even if I wanted to put you in the prerequisite classes to get into graduate school, I couldn't because it's completely full. Okay, well, what about next year? Right? And this nice guy that I had never met before in my life smiled and laughed and replied, I like you, kid. I'm going to bump you into all the classes, and I'm going to take a chance on you. And you're probably going to have to sit on the floor. And I looked at him with a smile and I went, great. And to this day, I still don't care where my office is at. I would sit on the floor anywhere. Now, I didn't know that would be the beginning of a journey that I never expected. I never in a million years thought I was smart enough to get a master's degree. But putting myself out there, being kind, and being inquisitive led me to that path. Now, don't get me wrong, the work ahead of me was immense. And during this 3-year period of getting my prerequisites and getting my master's, I did not slow down. I continued to make music with my band. I wrote an album, which, as you know now, I have 3 albums on all streaming platforms. I was married, I continued to mow lawns. And most of all, I just kept going. I was taking the opportunities as they rose. In fact, I didn't get into graduate school the first time. Most people don't know that. I was next on the wait list, in a wait list that moved an average of 15 people a year. I was next on the wait list. And the year I did my first time, it didn't budge. So that same year, I tried desperately to get a job, right? I had a bachelor's degree. I was still mowing lawns, but I couldn't find a job. So you know what I did? I worked at an instrument store in Lansing. I literally sold acoustic guitars over the telephone. Okay? I made $7.25 an hour. And it was the year I was married. And I was broke. I don't think my truck light ever had anything on but the gas thing. Close to it. It was humiliating. But I waited to get into grad school for the next year. And lo and behold, much like everything in life, it took hard work, determination, and patience. But I got in. And that's the challenge that waits for you in the upcoming months. Since graduating with my master's degree, I have worked as a director and speech therapist in a hospital system, where I kid you not, the director told me she hired me. Because when I walked into the restaurant for my interview, I had an earring, wore a white belt, and cut my breakfast sandwich with a fork and knife. She said, I think you're just what Cadillac needs. So they don't need a speech therapist. I got the job, right? I have been the director and speech therapist for 2 home cares as well. I have watched people work hard, and I've watched people fail miserably. I have firsthand witnessed inequality in the workplace, where my direct replacement, a young woman who I oriented and I mentored, was offered $15,000 a year less for the same position that I had. I have also seen the opposite and seen the receiver. I've been the receiver of many injustices at the hands of power-hungry and money-hungry CEOs. I have lost my job due to company foreclosure. I have lost my job due to budget and COVID. But I have also been fortunate to turn agencies around financially. increase compliance, and have helped to create equal and fair work environments. It's all gains and losses, guys. It's all gains and losses. After I lost my second home care job due to budget code, I decided to open my own business. Scary. It is probably the hardest thing I've worked in my entire life, but I'm immensely proud of the services we provide in our community. The work has been hard, and the reward has been the most amazing ever. But it's hard work. Success requires an incredible amount of work, because remember, even a rock star has to practice and tour and do business, and it's grueling, and it's rewarding. And a doctor has to do the same thing. And so does a farmer, and so does an electrician, and an engineer, and a nurse, and teachers, and so on and so forth. But every job I've started, and now this business, is just another start over. I've taken what I've learned from the past, and I've moved forward. And starting over is scary. Scary, new. Something new is scary. Where you're at now is scary. But I'm here to tell you that I've started new many times, and each time it's gotten better and better. What's important is moving forward. Learn from your past and continue to learn for the future. This requires that you change and adapt constantly. Now you may ask, well, it's all equal with gains and losses, then what's the point? Well, I have some sad news for you. Unfortunately, you're not going to get the point right now. Or you won't understand the point until you're able to sit up in front of a group of freshman graduates, and you have the immense responsibility to try to instill some knowledge to them. Or until you sit with your children and they look at you for wisdom and protection and truth. You see, honestly, I don't know if I have any of those things to share with you. I continue to learn and grow every day. But if you steer toward people who don't just tell you what to do, force their ways on you, and steer toward people who guide you and help you to be a better you, then you will do just fine. And sometimes you just have to steer yourself and do what's best for you. Okay? You see, we live in a very, very bizarre world these days. And I want you to look around at the heads nodding up and down in the room. And all those people that said they're nodding up and down in agreement, I want you to ignore them right now. Because the world's always been bizarre. It's always going to be bizarre. And you see, the world spins very fast. And I can tell you from experience that you either spin with it or you get thrown to the side. But bizarreness is what makes you who you are. The obstacles give you your specific beliefs and your specific motivations. And it takes opposition for you to create the person you are. You can't blame the world for the good or the bad in life. If you are responsible and accountable, you will create your own good in the world, no matter how bizarre things are at the time. Because like anything else, there is good bizarre and bad bizarre, and most times there is just one ever-loving bizarre. I've been faced with so many obstacles in life. How to apologize when you're wrong. How to celebrate a win, but continue to progress. How to show respect to others. How to love another person. How to raise a child. How to respond when someone tells you they love you. How to respond when a child asks you what happens when you die. How to go to your family and tell them you're sick. How to move on after you experience death. How do you move on after you lose a job? How to make a speech to upcoming kids. With all I've had to go through in my own personal life, it makes me wonder why we have any discrimination of any kind toward other people in this world. My life has been so full of ups and downs that I would find it too much to judge another's life's choices. And quite frankly, anybody who tells you that they are right over you, or better than you, or that their choices are better than yours, is completely full of it or blatantly insane. And I say that as a man that has been blessed and cursed with enough energy to run circles around almost everybody in this room. I have lived an incredibly full life, 100%. And I can tell each and every person in this entire room that you can do the exact same thing. The reason I have been able to live a full life is because I have been open to the changes and the opportunities that have surrounded me, and I have learned fact from fiction while never underestimating the beauty of both. Last page, I swear, guys. So anyway, today I hope I said a few things that give you something to think about. But most of all, I want you to look up here and see a man that has only told you about himself, right? I am no more and no less than anybody in this room, and I appreciate being the guest speaker today. But I certainly don't have all the answers. You will never know the extraordinary lives of all the people around you. You will only have your story to tell. So I truly wish you the best. And I hope you always keep the beat and never stop playing. Because remember, it's when you stop that people see the mistakes. Live your life to the fullest. And live for those few short moments of performance. Always be open to what lies ahead. Don't have all the answers. Just be curious. And to close, I would like to share the last thing that I have been sharing with my kids every night since they were born. And I truly hope they live by this. And as I share with you, I truly hope you live by this too. Always be kind. Always be gentle. Always be patient. Always be loving. And always be honest and understanding. The most important thing is to follow your heart and do good things. Now, what I also tell them, and I want to tell you, is this. You will never be able to do all those things 100% of the time. Life is much too complicated, and our minds are much too complex. However, if you follow your heart and do good things, you can always get back on track. And if you work hard and sometimes look up, you will do just fine. You see, sometimes you just can't walk in a square your whole life. You have to look up and walk through some doorways. And sometimes you're just lucky enough to fall through those doorways. Again, I truly wish you all the best for all your endeavors, academically, personally, and so forth. And again, thank you for having me today. It has truly been an honor to talk to you all. Congratulations.